Hello everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am the Sipping Tea, and today I have a review of the G.I. Joe STRV-S1 Wolverine Tank Destroyer. Briefly, however, before I get into that, I just wish to issue a huge thanks to my patrons NB Hollywood, Nagair898 and TankerTuff66. With your continued support, I am able to continue making these videos with the equipment that I need. So, with that all being said, let's get into it. So, the G.I. Joe STRV-S1 Wolverine Premium Tank Destroyer is a tank that you will find in Cold War in Era 2. Thankfully, it is typically referred to as the Wolverine and henceforth shall be, else it is a bit of a long name. So, this tank at full price is 12,500 gold, though thankfully it is currently on sale for slightly less in the store, though of course that is for a very limited time. The battle earn rates of this tank are as follows. So for silver you get an extra 50%, for tank XP earn you get an extra 25%, and for crew XP you get an additional 10%, which actually makes it a relatively decent crew trainer because that tank XP earn rate does also affect the crew XP earn rate. Moving on from there, let's take a look at the key statistics. So this tank of course does have a bit of a an ace up its sleeve, so to speak. The not so subtle rocket pods or missile pods on the very top of the tank really sort of show exactly what I'm getting at here. So let's address the weaponry in two sections. The main gun, let's start with that. So the penetration of the main gun, we have 367 millimeters for the standard rounds, 451 millimeters for the premium rounds. They both do an average of 480 damage. The rate of fire, so rounds per minute, is 7.59, which isn't too bad. A reload time of 7.9 seconds, an aiming time of 2.7 seconds with an accuracy of 0.35. Now, because this tank does have siege mode, that does mean that the aiming time is actually affected by siege mode, so that can be as low as 1.7 seconds. Of course, the accuracy is also affected in siege mode, which goes down to 0.25. So something to keep in mind is that these statistics of course can be improved with the necessary equipment, crew skills and consumables. With the siege mode you also get an additional gun depression. So the gun depression for the Wolverine is 10 degrees, which is not too bad. Without the siege mode it is pretty sort of woeful. The elevation isn't particularly great either, so do keep that in mind when playing the tank, that it doesn't really like looking up. Moving on from there, let's take a look at the missiles. So the missiles, you only get the one type of missile in this tank, so it's not sort of like a premium missile or anything. So the penetration value of the missiles is 450 millimeters with an average damage of 300, which does sound relatively low, but keep in mind of course that you do get to fire 2 missiles at once per trigger pull, so that is pretty decent. You do get 12 shots per clip with an intra-clip reload of just 3 seconds, so that is pretty impressive. You get a grand total of 24 rounds with this, so like I said, that is 12 shots per clip, so you do get 2 clips. It's enormously powerful to be able to just launch volley after volley of missiles. It's very fun and indeed quite deadly. Moving on from there, the maximum speed. So again, of course, this is affected by the siege mode. So when you're not in siege mode and just sort of like the regular drive mode, if you will, the maximum forward speed of the tank is 60 kilometers an hour, and the maximum reverse speed of the tank is 50 kilometers an hour. When you are in siege mode, the maximum forward speed of the tank is 20 kilometers an hour, and likewise it is 20 kilometers an hour maximum in reverse while in siege mode. The fire chance of the engine is 10%, so ordinarily I'd recommend a fire extinguisher. That probably wouldn't still be a bad idea anyway, but as you will see and have no doubt noticed already in the gameplay, I don't currently run a fire extinguisher on this tank. Pure heresy, I know, but I have decided to go for a slightly different layout when it comes to the consumables on this tank. To finish off the key statistics, the vision range is 530 meters. The detectability range, or otherwise still concealment, you'll be able to see on the little cheat sheet that of course has been on the screen throughout this key statistics. And finally, the Wolverine does offer 2600 HP. Moving on from there, let's now take a look at the armor values of the Wolverine. So as you can see here from the footage on the screen, the armor of the Wolverine isn't particularly impressive, at least in thickness. However, I'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end of this section. So to start things off, let's now take a look at each individual component of the armor. Starting at 5mm for the armor, more or less straight above the mud guards just there, along with a small strip along the rear side of the tank. Then it moves along to 10mm, the sides of the hull and a little bit of the front of the tank as well, wrapping around the back also. From there we have 15mm, which is the commander's hatch, that sort of dome right on the top, the entirety of that. 20mm is what you get for the tracks, along with a little bit of the hull armour at the top rear of the vehicle. 30mm is the missile pods and also the inner hull armour, along with a part of the rear of the tank and indeed the sloped part at the front of the sides of the tank as well. 40mm is what you get for the gun, and 45mm is what you get for a very small, rather aggressively angled bit on the front of the upper hull. And finally 60mm is the entirety of the remaining part of the upper and lower plate at the front of the tank. Now, despite the fact that the tank has very thin armour, you should know that because the tank is so aggressively angled, it does mean that it will bounce an enormous amount of rounds that come in at it. It really has proven itself to be one of the best tanks for blocking damage, I must say. The way to sort of tackle this, if you are shooting at it, is either with missiles or indeed with high explosive or HESH rounds, something like that. Or otherwise to position yourself either at the side of the tank or the rear, something that can avoid that really heavily angled front part of the tank. So moving on from there, let's now take a quick look at the equipment and the consumables. So you'll see from the graphic on the screen here that I have for the equipment a camo net, ventilation, and also the advanced loader. So with this tank, I believe it's very important really to try and remain as stealthy as possible. So a camo net, I think, really is going to play a huge role in this current setup. You will have seen perhaps from the little cheat sheet with the still concealment that currently I've got it down to 79 meters on this tank. That is of course in no small part to the crew skills as well as the equipment and consumables. So yeah, camo net, a really good choice I'd say in this particular tank. The ventilation, of course, just helps pretty much every single aspect of the tank, including the reload. Given that the missile reload is quite long, at about a minute, yeah, it's never going to hurt to have that reduced down. And of course, the advanced loader speaks for itself. When it comes to DPM, you want to get as many shells, and in this case missiles as well, downrange as quickly as possible into the enemy vehicles. From there, the consumables. I've gone all out with this tank. I have got myself 3 lots of premium consumables. I must be mad, right? The premium repair kit, of course, is something that is very important. I have that on pretty much every single tank that I play these days. I then got the whole repair kit, just because at 2600 HP I feel like it is a tank that can benefit from that reasonably well, so why not? And finally, I've got the premium smoke. Not only does it of course help you sort of get out of trouble fast if you find yourself in a bit of a sticky situation, it also has a passive effect to your camouflage rating, so that's why I've got that. In future, I may well swap out the whole repair kit or whole patch kit for a fire extinguisher. I have been set ablaze a few times in this tank, and every single time I do it, well, instinctively I mash the B button, which is where I normally keep my fire extinguisher, which of course then means in this tank I deploy smoke. So yeah, if you see a very smoky burning Wolverine, it's probably me. So yeah, there we go. That may be something that I change in the future. Moving on from there, the commander skills that I have on this tank. So because it's quite a new tank, I also have a fairly new commander. You'll see here that it is in fact the Grim Reaper, so that sort of shows how new it is, given that of course that commander only recently went on sale for Halloween. So the commander skills that I have are Sixth Sense, Born Leader, Rapid Loading, Muffled Shot, and Camouflage Expertise. So I do plan to continue down the camouflage sort of path with this tank. So yeah, silent driving, for instance, will take a will certainly make an appearance at some point, and possibly sort of the green thumb skill as well. That's undecided. That may well be the last one, but yeah, that's sort of what I want to kind of aim for in the coming sort of crew skill days, so to speak, as that really will of course boost the camouflage factor considerably. Other skills that I will be considering as well will be anything that sort of helps boost the mobility of the tank as well. So clutch braking, for instance, is going to be a skill that I think is going to be well worthwhile on any commander that will be with the Wolverine. So, in conclusion, and sort of to round things up, I would say that the Wolverine is a fantastic tank. It really is worth the money, in my opinion. I was very skeptical of it initially, sort of looking back at my news video last Tuesday. Those issues that I raised with the regarding the gun handling of siege mode tanks is still very much there. This tank, unfortunately, is no exception to that at all. If you use the main gun and you sort of look left to right on completely flat and level ground, occasionally you will notice that the gun sights, for absolutely no reason whatsoever, they just suddenly jump. They jump up, and it's very frustrating, or at least it can be. If you're trying to aim at a very specific location, which of course is sort of what you do in this game, you aim for certain parts of an enemy tank's armour, the weak points, and your gun reticle suddenly bounces up, that's frustrating, that's annoying. It is sort of an inherent fault, a bug, with siege mode tanks. But thankfully this tank does have something else on its side, which I would say sort of overshadows that that sort of negative part about the main gun, and that is of course the missiles. If this tank didn't have missiles, or at least certainly didn't have missiles in the way that it does, with the enormous quantity of them, and the fact that it fires volley after volley with just about a 3-second interval, this tank would be really bad without that. But because it has these missiles, I would say that is its saving grace. It does make this tank a true joy to play. I've not had such fun playing a premium tank since the Armadillo first launched, before it was nerfed. That's how highly I think of the Wolverine at this moment in time. So that really is high praise, because I absolutely loved the Armadillo when it first came out. So yeah, the Wolverine, if you haven't already got it, if you're in a situation or position where you can afford to buy it, then I would recommend it. I would put my recommendation on the Wolverine. It really is a very fun tank. But yeah, the Wolverine, a tank very much worth your money, very much worth your attention. I really do hope that you enjoyed the review of the Wolverine. Please do check out the various links that I have down in the description. It will take you to my Twitch channel. It will take you to Patreon. If you fancy supporting me making these videos, then please do click the Patreon button, and even if it's just $1 or $2 a month, it may not seem like necessarily a lot, but it does build up, and it does help me massively to produce these videos. Otherwise, you'll find a link to Ko-fi, which is another donation platform, and also my Twitter as well, where I do post when I go live on Twitch and when I upload a video to YouTube. So if you wanted to follow me on Twitter, then you'll be able to get sort of a heads up for when I make my content. However, with that all being said, that is the end of the video. Thank you ever so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.